I stood in the boardroom where I'd been humiliated and fired 6 months earlier, but this time I wasn't the one being dismissed. Madison Foster sat across from me, her face pale as my lawyer slid the acquisition papers toward her. "Congratulations, Ms. Foster," I said, savoring every word. "You're now working for someone with a bad attitude. But let me tell you how we got here. My name is Alex Reynolds, and I'm 32 years old. 6 months ago, I was a senior product developer at Foster Industries with 7 years of spotless service under my belt. Today? Well, let's just say the tables have turned in ways nobody saw coming. Back then, I walked into that gleaming corporate building every morning with genuine pride. Coffee in one hand, innovation notes in the other. The lobby's marble floors reflected the kind of success I thought I was part of building. My team respected me. Management valued my work. I had this foolish belief that talent and integrity actually mattered in corporate America. Foster Industries felt like home. I'd spent countless late nights in those offices, turning impossible deadlines into breakthrough products. My collaborative leadership style wasn't just some buzzword from a business school textbook. It actually worked. When problems emerged, people called me. When projects stalled, I got them moving. 7 years of this built a reputation I was genuinely proud of. The morning everything changed started like any other. I was preparing for our biggest presentation of the year, reviewing notes for what I knew would be a game-changing moment. My team had created something extraordinary, a revolutionary smart home integration system that would transform how people interacted with their living spaces. Months of brilliant collaboration had led to this breakthrough. Walking into the boardroom, I felt the familiar rush of presenting genuine innovation. The executive board leaned forward as I demonstrated our technology. But here's what made me proudest. I didn't present this as my creation alone. Maria's algorithm design deserved recognition. James's hardware optimization was brilliant. Priya's user interface innovations were pure genius. Then Madison Foster walked in 20 minutes late. Madison was 28, polished, and absolutely convinced that her last name made her qualified for everything. She'd inherited her executive position the way some people inherit eye color, through no effort of their own. The woman had never developed a product, led a team through crisis, or solved a single technical problem. But she had opinions, strong ones. Halfway through my presentation, Madison interrupted with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Alex, this team approach is confusing our narrative. Can you reframe this as your sole invention? It's much cleaner for marketing." The room went silent. Every person at that table knew what she was asking. She wanted me to erase my team's contributions, steal their credit, and pretend months of collaborative brilliance was just me working alone. The ethical problems with this were staggering. I kept my voice steady and professional. "Madison, I can't do that. These innovations came from my team's diverse perspectives working together. Taking sole credit wouldn't just be wrong, it would be lying." Her expression shifted instantly. That polite executive mask slipped, revealing something much uglier underneath. Madison wasn't just annoyed by my refusal, she was personally offended that someone would dare question her judgment. "Alex, you're being difficult. This is about strategy, not your personal feelings about teamwork." But I held firm. "This is about integrity. My team deserves recognition for their work." What happened next still amazes me. Madison leveraged her family connection to override standard HR protocols right there in that meeting. She declared that my attitude problem made me impossible to work with. Despite 7 years of exemplary reviews, despite the successful project we'd just presented, despite every rational business argument against this decision, I was fired on the spot. Security escorted me out 30 minutes later. My team watched helplessly as I cleaned out my desk, their faces showing the same shock I felt. The humiliation was complete and deliberate. Madison had made her point about challenging her authority. Walking out of Foster Industries that day, carrying a cardboard box of personal items, I had no idea I was actually walking toward the biggest opportunity of my life. Because what Madison didn't know, what nobody at Foster Industries knew, was that I'd been working on something far more revolutionary than anything they'd ever seen. And that secret was about to change everything. Walking home that evening, with my cardboard box of shame, I felt something most people in my situation wouldn't expect: relief. Because sitting in my apartment that night, I pulled out a laptop that contained 2 years of secret work that would make Foster Industries' revolutionary smart home system look like a calculator next to a supercomputer. Here's what nobody knew. While I was loyally developing products for Foster Industries during business hours, I'd been spending my evenings and weekends creating something extraordinary. This wasn't some side project using company resources. Every line of code, every hardware innovation, every breakthrough algorithm came from my own time, my own money, my own vision. The technology I developed didn't just integrate smart home devices. It predicted user behavior, learned family patterns, and created an ecosystem so intuitive it felt like your house was reading your mind. Where Foster Industries' system could turn on your lights, mine could anticipate when you'd want them dimmed, based on your daily rhythms and current mood. But here's the crazy part. I'd never planned to use it. The invention was more like a hobby that got out of hand. Some people build model trains. I accidentally created the future of home automation. Madison's firing changed everything. Sitting there surrounded by rejection letters I'd never send, I faced a choice that would define my entire future. I could take my skills to another corporation, keeping my breakthrough invention locked away forever. Or I could risk everything on a vision nobody else could see yet. The smart move was finding another job. Steady paycheck, health insurance, retirement contributions, all the safe choices that had kept me comfortable for 7 years. But Madison's dismissive voice kept echoing in my head. That entitled smirk when she erased my team's contributions. The casual cruelty of destroying someone's career over wounded pride. Well, sometimes the smart move isn't the right move. I called my patent lawyer the next morning. Jennifer Kim had helped me file preliminary patents on my technology months earlier, back when I thought it might someday become a Foster Industries project. Now those patents were about to become the foundation of something much bigger. "Alex, are you absolutely certain about this?" Jennifer asked during our meeting. Starting a company is expensive, risky, and exhausting. Most tech startups fail within 2 years. I understood her concerns. My savings account contained exactly enough money to survive 6 months without income. Going from stable employment to entrepreneurial uncertainty wasn't just risky, it was potentially devastating. But something about Madison's arrogance had awakened a determination I didn't know I possessed. The next 3 months blurred together in a haze of 18-hour days. My apartment transformed into a research lab, manufacturing center, and corporate headquarters all at once. The dining room table disappeared under circuit boards and prototypes. My living room became a testing ground for smart home integrations that made Amazon's Alexa look like a walkie-talkie. Finding investors proved surprisingly straightforward once they saw demonstrations. Technology speaks for itself when it's genuinely revolutionary. By month 4, Reynolds Innovation existed as more than just paperwork and dreams. We had funding, a small team, and products ready for market. Then there's the part that still makes me laugh. While I was building the future in my apartment, Foster Industries was discovering what happens when you fire your most innovative problem solver out of petty spite. My former teammates started reaching out with updates. Maria called first, frustrated beyond belief. "Alex, everything's falling apart without you here. Projects you used to fix in hours are taking weeks. Madison keeps making demands that make no technical sense." James followed with his own horror stories. The smart home system we'd presented was stuck in development hell. Madison insisted on changes that contradicted basic engineering principles. She wanted features that sounded good in marketing. Meetings, but were physically impossible to implement. But the real kicker came from Priya. "Madison held a team meeting yesterday," she told me over coffee. She announced that innovation happens through positive attitude and corporate synergy, not technical expertise. I'm not kidding. Those were her actual words. Foster Industries' stock price started its slow decline around month 5 of my entrepreneurial journey. Nothing dramatic at first, just a steady erosion of investor confidence as promised. Products failed to materialize. The smart home system that was supposed to revolutionize their portfolio became an expensive embarrassment. Meanwhile, Reynolds Innovation prepared for launch with military precision. Our beta testing revealed performance metrics that exceeded even my optimistic projections. Users weren't just satisfied, they were amazed. The technology felt magical because it anticipated needs instead of just responding to commands. Launch day arrived on a Tuesday morning that felt like Christmas. and my wedding day combined. Our first product batch sold out within 6 hours. The second batch lasted 2 days. By week 3, we had a 6-month back order list and competitors scrambling to understand how we'd achieve such breakthroughs. The tech press went crazy. Reynolds Innovation redefines smart home technology. Former corporate employee creates industry-disrupting breakthrough. The future of home automation has arrived. Foster Industries' response was predictably tone-deaf. Madison issued a press statement claiming our success proved her point about individual innovation over team collaboration. She somehow managed to take credit for firing me while simultaneously dismissing our achievements as lucky timing in a crowded market. But markets don't lie, and numbers don't have attitudes. Reynolds Innovation's valuation hit $50 million by month 6. Foster Industries lost 30% of their smart home market share in the same period. Major clients started canceling contracts and switching to our superior technology. The beautiful irony wasn't lost on anyone paying attention. Madison had fired me for having a bad attitude about taking credit for my team's work. Now, her bad attitude about innovation itself was destroying her family's company, while my good products conquered the market she thought she understood. By month 8, Foster Industries was hemorrhaging talent. Engineers, designers, and project managers were jumping ship faster than Madison could replace them. My former teammates all received offers from competitors who recognized their value, something Madison had never bothered to do. Jennifer called with increasingly interesting news during our monthly legal check-ins. Alex, Foster Industries' financial situation is becoming critical. Stock prices are at historic lows. They're facing serious cash flow problems. The weird part is, I felt no satisfaction watching my former employer struggle. Revenge had never been my motivation. Building something meaningful was. But as Foster Industries circled the drain, I started seeing opportunity where others might see justice. What if the person with the bad attitude could actually save the company that had dismissed him? What if innovation and integrity could triumph over entitlement and corporate politics? What if there was a way to turn this whole situation into something beneficial for everyone who'd been hurt by Madison's poor leadership? The idea started as curiosity, but quickly became strategy. Foster Industries was vulnerable, valuable, and perfectly positioned for a transformation that could benefit everyone, except perhaps the entitled executive who'd created this mess in the first place. That's when I started making phone calls to investment bankers who specialized in corporate acquisitions. Because sometimes the best way to fix a broken system is to buy it. The investment bankers thought I was crazy at first. You want to acquire the company that fired you? They kept asking variations of this question, like I hadn't considered the obvious irony. But crazy and strategic aren't mutually exclusive. Sometimes they're the same thing. Foster Industries stock had dropped 70% from its peak. Their debt-to-equity ratio looked like a medical emergency. Creditors were circling like vultures, and Madison's desperate attempts to save face were making everything worse. She'd started blaming external market forces for problems that were clearly internal leadership failures. The beauty of a hostile takeover is that it doesn't require the target company's permission. You just need enough shares and sufficient financing. Reynolds Innovation's success had attracted serious investors who understood the strategic value of acquiring our former competitor. We weren't just buying a struggling company. We were eliminating competition while gaining valuable patents, manufacturing facilities, and distribution networks. My lawyer Jennifer coordinated with investment banks to structure the deal. Alex, you realize this is going to cost nearly everything you've earned, right? If something goes wrong, you'll lose both companies. The risk was enormous, but watching Foster Industries waste talented people and valuable resources felt like watching someone burn down a library. Some things are worth saving, even when the current management doesn't deserve saving. The acquisition process took 3 months of careful planning. We needed to accumulate shares quietly, avoiding early detection that might trigger defensive measures. Madison was so focused on operational firefighting that she missed the financial maneuvering happening right under her nose. Then came the morning when everything crystallized. Foster Industries board received our formal acquisition offer. The price was fair, but non-negotiable. They had 48 hours to respond before we took the offer directly to shareholders. Madison's reaction was predictably explosive. She called emergency board meetings, threatened lawsuits, and even tried reaching out to competitors for a white knight rescue. But the numbers don't lie, and desperate companies don't get to be choosy about their saviors. The final board meeting happened in the same room where Madison had fired me 9 months earlier. Same mahogany table, same uncomfortable chairs. But this time, I sat where she used to sit, and she occupied the defendant's position I'd once filled. "This is ridiculous," Madison announced to anyone who'd listen. "You're letting some disgruntled ex-employee destroy everything my family built." But the other board members had done their homework. They knew Reynolds Innovation's track record. They understood the strategic advantages of combining both companies under competent leadership. Most importantly, they recognized that Madison's entitlement had created this crisis in the first place. The vote was unanimous. Foster Industries would become a subsidiary of Reynolds Innovation, with me as CEO of the merged organization. Madison could stay as a department manager if she wanted, but her executive authority was finished. Watching her sign the papers felt surreal. 9 months ago, she'd dismissed me for having a bad attitude about taking credit for other people's work. Now, the person with the supposed attitude problem owned the company where she'd thrown her entitled tantrums. But here's what surprised me most. I didn't feel vindictive. Watching Madison's humiliation wasn't satisfying the way I'd expected. Instead, I felt responsible for fixing the mess she'd created and helping the talented people she'd mismanaged. My first priority was rebuilding the team Madison had destroyed. Maria, James, and Priya received immediate offers to join the new leadership structure. The engineers who'd quit during Madison's reign of incompetence got calls about returning to an environment where innovation mattered more than politics. The real victory wasn't owning Foster Industries. It was creating something better than what came before. We had the chance to build a company where talented people could thrive without worrying about entitled executives stealing their credit or firing them for having principles. Madison ultimately chose to leave rather than adapt to merit-based leadership. Some people can't function in environments where results matter more than last names. But that's just the beginning of how this story gets really interesting. The best part about owning Foster Industries wasn't the poetic justice. It was watching what happened when actual leadership replaced Madison's chaos. Within 30 days, we'd merged both companies seamlessly. Maria became Chief Technology Officer. James headed our new hardware division. Priya transformed our user experience across all products. These weren't charity positions. They were promotions these brilliant people had earned years ago, but never received under Madison's regime. Our first quarterly meeting as the combined company revealed numbers that shocked even me. Revenue jumped 40%. Customer satisfaction ratings hit record highs. Employee retention went from Foster Industries' dismal 60% to 94%. Turns out people perform better when leadership actually leads instead of just inheriting titles. The market responded immediately. Our stock price tripled in 6 months. Tech publications called it the most successful corporate turnaround in recent history. Business schools started teaching case studies about transforming toxic workplace cultures through merit-based leadership. Madison tried launching her own consulting firm called Foster Leadership Solutions. It lasted 8 months before closing due to lack of clients. Apparently, companies weren't lining up to pay for advice from someone who'd nearly destroyed a multi-million-dollar business through pure incompetence. Who knew? But here's what nobody expected. Foster Industries' original employees thrived under actual management. People Madison had written off as unmotivated suddenly became innovative powerhouses. Projects that had stalled for months got completed in weeks. The same team that couldn't function under her leadership was now creating breakthrough products. 3 years later, our merged company employs over 200 people across 4 countries. We've launched 12 revolutionary products and hold patents on technologies that are reshaping entire industries. The smart home system that started this whole journey now seems quaint compared to what we're building today. Sometimes I walk through our headquarters, the same building where Madison fired me for having a bad attitude, and marvel at how dramatically everything changed. That boardroom where she humiliated me is now where we hold innovation meetings that actually innovate. The funniest part? Madison occasionally sends LinkedIn connection requests, apparently forgetting she once fired me. I never respond, but I appreciate the irony. People ask if I'd do anything differently. Honestly, no. Getting fired was the best thing that ever happened to my career. Madison's entitled tantrum didn't just free me from the corporate mediocrity. It forced me to discover capabilities I never knew I possessed. Sometimes the person with a bad attitude is just someone who refuses to accept bad leadership. And sometimes that's exactly the attitude the world needs. The company Madison thought she was protecting from my influence now bears my name on the door. That's not revenge. That's just consequences finally catching up with incompetence. And that's how I learned the most valuable lesson of my career. Never underestimate what happens when talent meets opportunity, especially when that opportunity comes disguised as getting fired for having principles.